All right, now I notice this is that if you want to study about end times, the number one thing that you want to look at is actually the nation of Israel. That is number one. Number two would be, well, not number two. The other rankings could vary, but here are the other things that if you want to look how close we are to end times is technology, definitely. And that's what you saw just now. All of it is just purely technology. Yeah. Another thing is to look at the Roman Catholic Church. So I trust that we're live right now again. Okay. So one of the things, if you want to study end times, turn to Revelation chapter 17, please. Revelation chapter 17. If you want to know about how close we are to end times, you have to look at Roman Catholic Church, Vatican. That is Mystery Babylon. We are getting there, friend. We are getting there. Now, the Bible shows that the Pope, he will be the Antichrist. And if people disagree with that, then at the very least, the Pope will be false prophet at the very least. But we do know this much, is that the Pope, he plays an important figure within the Antichrist New World Order system, even if he is not the official Antichrist himself. Whether he is Antichrist or false prophet, both of them, if you look at Revelation 13, will push this mark, 666. Now, if you look up 666, what is very interesting is that if you look at Vicarius Filii Dei, the Vicar of Christ, there could possibly a different meaning to that, but just for now, I'm just going to put a general meaning, Vicar of Christ. If you look at that Latin inscription, it was on the forehead, like literally wearing it on the head, so to speak, of the Pope. And if you count the numbers of Vicarius Filii Dei, which is Roman numeral numbers, and he's a Roman, right? Right from Rome. It will come down to 666. The other letters, they are not Roman numerals, and the rest of them, they are all completely Roman numerals. It's 666. So your pastor mentioned that recently they scratched that off, I've heard, but I've also heard it was scratched off a long time ago. So then now it cleared up for me. What it is that on the crown, because so many Baptist preachers were giving a heyday that, see, I told you, that is the Antichrist. Because if you look at Revelation 13, let's jump over there, Revelation 13, shall we? Revelation chapter 13. Look at verse 1. The Antichrist, what is he wearing on his head? Look at the book of Revelation 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns. And upon his heads the what? Name of blasphemy. His name, his title, Vicarius Filii Dei. And a very likely candidate that your pastor was very much open to was that Vicarius Filii Dei 666. So because Baptist preachers were exposing that, they crossed that off of from what I could be incorrect, but from the crown. The recent news of the Vicarius Filii Dei they crossed out was his actual title. Okay? So that's what cleared it up for me. So then, recently they did cross out Vicarius Filii Dei from his title. But from the crown where that inscription is, I mean, that's plain sight. I am 666. So Baptist preachers were doing that for decades, so that was a long time ago. Yeah, so that pretty much cleared up for me. But anyway, if we were to come down over here, let's look at some interesting things over here concerning about His Hellish Majesty, the Pope, His Hellish Majesty. So recently I mentioned it was crossed out. Title of the article, and this is officially Catholic source. It's by the Catholic World Report. So this is a Catholic source. So you notice your pastor, if he's going to explain something as factual, or if it's not factual, at least thought-provoking and scriptural, he's not just going to come to a source that supports his view. He's going to go to a source that's even from the critic side, so to speak, from the enemy side. Okay? So the title of their article is Moving Vicar of Christ title in Vatican Yearbook is, quote unquote, theological barbarism, says the cardinal. So there's a cardinal who got upset about that. Where the Pope, he tried to move that as a part of a historical reference, not modern day. Because it is known that the Pope did before, where he inserted his own name, rather than the official Vicar of Christ or some other type of whatever Roman Catholic title. He inserted his own name before, rather than the official Catholic title. But if you read the book of John, what did Jesus say? Jesus says him as the Messiah, the real Christ. I come in the Father in my name, but you will not receive. But if another, see, a different Christ, a different Messiah, but if another comes in his what? Own name, him what? Ye will receive. How about that? Now, I gave you the title of the article. The date is April 6, 2020, just to prove it. Okay, let's read this insightful source from the Catholics. He actually says over here, so I mentioned before, they tried to move that as a historical title over here. Mueller argued that the next section marked historical titles, mixed the term Vicar of Christ, right here, with designations that have, quote, nothing to do with primacy and have only grown historically, but have no dogmatic meaning, such as sovereign of Vatican City-State. Now, it makes you wonder why they want to do that. You know why? Perhaps if you make this more dogmatic, if you make this more canonized or whatever they want to call it, official, then imagine Baptist pastors saying, this is what the Vatican officially endorsed. So maybe that's why they want to do this shift. Think about that. It is a theological barbarism to devalue the Pope's titles, successor of Peter, Vicar of Christ, and visible head of the whole church, as a mere historical ballast, he wrote. So one of the cardinals got mad about that. And he said, no, this is something official ingrained in the Catholic system. Let's not just put this as a historical title, so to speak. What's going on? Well. Maybe that's why in your Bible, God made it mysterious, abstract, the name of blasphemy. Why? Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it hidden, abstract. Maybe the Bible's more literal than you think, but it'll tell you something very literally as well, comes in his own name. So it might take basically these two, maybe more literal than you think. That book is way ahead of you. It will blow you up many times, friend. It will blow you up many times. Now, this is something very interesting that I've read. The title of this article, now I will admit maybe a lot of people might not see this as an official mainstream news source, but I'm going to quote the title anyway. And all you have to do is this. If you want to validate this news source, all you have to do is just look up online. And trust me, a lot of the news will acknowledge this is actually happening. This is a real event. So the title of the article is Italian officials remove EU flags, European Union flags, over coronavirus response. You know what they did? Italy's politicians replaced flags with Chinese and Russian ones to protest European Union. This is by Jay Greenberg, 4th of April, 2020. You might say, why is that? So just look that up. That's what I'll say. You know why? Because a lot of people are afraid that there's a lot of people dying out at Italy, remember? I mean, this was pretty bad, where Italy was suffering a huge loss of numbers. So the European Union, they were failing to meet up, including Germany. There were some people even upset at Germany. And Germany, as you might recall, has been very exceptional and an ideal country a lot of people are looking up to take care of their patients. But even Germany is having trouble. So the people in Italy, they were getting so frustrated about the European Union. Now, who's in charge? I don't know if you looked this up. Who's one of the big heads of the European Union or the big king? The Pope. I don't know if you knew that. And that's old news. That's old news. So a lot of people are getting frustrated with EU, and then they're looking to Russia and China because these two countries have been offering to help the world with the medical supplies and etc., perhaps even economic supplies. So they're all looking toward this. You know what the Bible says about the Antichrist? Look at Revelation 6. What did your pastor tell you a long, long time ago? He warned you a long time ago that the European Union or United Nations or this one world system, so to speak, where the Pope is involved and the Antichrist is involved, they will have what? Conflict with red nations, so to speak. Your pastor warned you about that, right? And he mentioned that these were what? Communist-tied or Muslim-tied nations. Wow, 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 wow. I told you that a long time ago, man. Look at Revelation chapter 6, verse 1. This is proven that the Antichrist is at verse 2, right? The white horse, the Pope is dressed up in white. He has a crown, so that matches the Pope. Look at this, and he went forth what? Conquering and to conquer. See, he's not like, I rule over all the world's at agreement with me. No, there are nations that disagree with him. Yeah. So he's conquering them. If you look at Daniel 11, that is even more plain, where the Antichrist, he is battling with different nations who would not respond to him. Now, can this be connected to the color red, so to speak, of nations? Well, look at the next verse. Immediately. Do you think Russia and China? And Russia, you might say that it's not communist nation anymore, but to be quite honest, no. Even democratic politicians would call Russia communist from time to time when it suits their agenda, so to speak, against the conservative party. But a lot of people already know that if you look at Russia, look, you can't honestly say that it's like full democratic ideology. No, a lot of it is that communism ideology. It's still red, so to speak. And if you look at the Russia, where it was in communism back then, the color was what? It's all connected to red. It's all connected to some kind of a sword, so to speak. And red China is pretty obvious already when you look at the flag. But look at this, verse 4. Will they respond to the Pope conquering at verse 2? Yeah, they're not happy. Verse 4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take what? Peace from the earth. Why? Because of verse 2, the goal of United Nations, European Union, is to bring what? Peace. And that they should what? Kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Look at that, sword and red, and those are the nations that's blowing up around the world. That's World War III, so to speak. How about that? So what's going to happen? We see prophecy fulfilling right here where, think about this. Maybe, I could be wrong about this, but your pastor mentioned before that at Revelation 9, and then when we compare that with Daniel chapter 11, and then the red horseman is undoubtedly a spirit, right? And a demonic spirit, the red horseman. So Revelation 6, we can add that. It seems like then demonic beings are siding with the Antichrist enemies. Revelation 9, I mentioned about where this army comes out, and it seems like that they're against the Antichrist's own people and slaughtering them. And there's a huge slaughter, actually. And when you look at Revelation 9 and Revelation 16, that connects to the numbers, the best nation you can think about of the East is China. If you look at Revelation 16 and Revelation 9. But your pastor mentioned that there were 4 Tartarus angels in there. Now, don't look at me like a tree full of owls and just study the scriptures. Look at Revelation 9 and Revelation 16 and see where there were 4 of them coming out from the river Euphrates. And then they bring up this army that attacks the Antichrist's own people. But then there's no doubt demonic spirits are supporting this man too. You might say this is confusing. No, it's not confusing, because the simple answer is this. One, a satanic spirit, which you can find in globalists and elites today, is that it's not just one smooth flow off of one top food chain. I mean, I can see that smooth flow and certain elected top officials, don't get me wrong. I also see a lot of conflict with each other. These globalists attacking other globalists. You know why? A satanic fruit, a work of the flesh, a work of the devil, is betrayal, like Judas Iscariot, betraying spirit, envy for power, jealousness. And not only that, wouldn't it be logical that these devils are possessing these people, these devils are possessing the Antichrist people, because Satan just wants to see people kill each other? See, Satan doesn't care. And it is a matter of fact, Satan betrays his own people. If you're a Satan worshiper, some Satan worshipers have seen that, and they've been freed from the chains of their evil commander and received the blood of Christ for their salvation. I want to encourage anyone out there, this is a long shot, but if anyone's involved in that satanic garbage, please don't think that the devil will give you power. Be freed by the blood of Jesus Christ, and his promise is everlasting, loving, compassionate, and he never lies. But Satan, he is known as what? The deceiver. He is known as a liar from the beginning and a murderer from the beginning. So please do not fall into that mess, I urge you. Now there's one video clip that I want to play to you. I don't know if people can really hear this, but what I will do is that I will try to translate some of the things that this person said. Now, you know who I'm going to present? Now, who I'm going to present to you is probably a little chilling to me. I couldn't resist. The Pope, I don't know if some of you knew this, but Alberto Rivera, who used to be a Jesuit and then became a saved Christian, he mentioned that there's not just one Pope. That's right. He mentioned in the Jesuit order, the Pope is known as the White Pope. But there is a Jesuit general, the leader of the Jesuits, and he is known as actually the Black Pope. Now let me tell you something. This is a matter-of-fact statement that if you study a lot of the things concerning the history of the Jesuits, they were known for being kicked out by the Roman Catholic Empire, and they were under suppression for, I think, over a century, but for quite a long period of time. So Jesuits should have been eradicated. But these people were so powerful. I mean, they had Catholic nations against them, and even their own Pope and Vatican against them. But during that suppression, this small organization was so demonically brilliant under their Jesuit general, and I believe his name was Ricky that time, but that general, he's the one, and I mentioned this in other videos, he's the one that got Rothschild and Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati during the foundation of America together. That's how they survived. You know what? You want to look at this guy more than this guy on what he says about the coronavirus. You know what he said?
The crisis is showing us that we are one humanity. Every human being, every people, each culture is part of this one varied, rich, and interdependent humanity. It is showing us that there is no difference in age, race, religion, or social status when we are one humanity. Each and every one of us is part of it. No one is left out. No one of us can do without the others. And I think that's the challenge. The challenge is how we really don't forget that this is not also an accident. It's not an accident, the COVID-19. And it's a confirmation of our mission to collaborate, to contribute in the change of this world. And I think we can show the people through reflecting about the COVID-19, the fragility of the world we have created, no? and how we need really to get together so we can go in another way. I don't think so that after the crisis things are going to change like this. So to take an opportunity of this crisis is to be aware that something has to change, because really we are in a very fragile structure of human relationship and life. So don't forget this crisis. Not just, okay, that was a bad night, a nightmare. No, and we are awake again, and we are again in our life as before. No, we have to take the lesson that if we don't change after this, the next one will be worse.